What's going on, everybody? Brendan here today with Skimmer Frog Pools. Today's job, we're going to be doing a regular service visit, as well as we're going to be taking apart an S8D110 and doing a filter cleaning. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. There's not much debris in the pool to vacuum, so I'm going to go ahead and do the filter first to get that out of the way. If there was a lot of debris in the pool, I would go ahead and vacuum that to the filter, and then we're going to clean the filter anyways. So since there's not a lot of loose debris in the pool, we'll go ahead and do the filter. When doing a DE filter, the first thing you're going to want to do is backwash the filter, just to kind of make the job easier. You're going to go ahead and rinse a lot of that DE out so you don't have to manually clean it off. So we're going to go ahead and put it in service using our mode button. Everything will stop. You want to give it an extra second in case there is a manual schedule set to the pump itself. These are a Bluetooth style pump, so unless it's wired to mobile from when I programmed the pump initially to my phone, then it shouldn't start up on its own. The older pumps, though, you have to be worried about the programmed in schedules. But I already know this one doesn't have any of that to worry about. So we'll go ahead and get our hose rolled out and get ready for the backwash. Okay, now that we've rolled our backwash hose out to the drain, we'll go ahead and pull our multi-port in backwash. And clean off all that debris off the top of it too. All right, now we're good to start our pump. All right, now we're back in auto. Our pump is turning on. We're now in backwash. So we got our sight glass right here. Now, as we watch this, you're going to see all of the DE and everything going out. So we pretty much just let this backwash until that starts to clear up. It's probably kind of hard to see from your angle, but it is starting to clear up a little bit now. All right, now we've moved over to our rinse cycle. Now we just let our rinse go. As you can see, this is just going to be clear water flushing out the lines to make sure none of that nasty residue got left behind. If you didn't run your rinse, then when you start the pool back up and filter, all that nasty stuff that's left over would blow out into the pool. So if your purpose is to clean the pool, you don't want to send all that nasty, dirty stuff from the filter to the pool. All right, we only run rinse for about 10 seconds. Then back to backwash. You want to do this 2 more times. So every time you backwash, you want to do 3 cycles of backwash and rinse. Start it back up. Now same thing, we just watch. All right, it's starting to clear up. It's kind of hard to see on mobile, but you can see the individual particles. Now the water's clearing up. Every backwash and rinse cycle, you are draining water out of the pool. We've just had a lot of rain recently, so the pool's kind of full as it is. So it's not really a concern with what I'm doing right now. But it is good practice to go ahead and put the hose pipe in the pool whenever you're doing a backwash, just to counterbalance the water loss. All right, I'm starting up our 3rd and final backwash process. So now, if we watch, the globe should not stay cloudy near as long as it has been. So there it goes, it's starting to cloud up. And it's already clearing back up. And we're good. Now we're on our final rinse cycle. Give it about 10-15 seconds. All right, then back to service. And now we're safe to begin preparing the filter for disassembly. Now the first thing you want to do is go to your multi-port and put it in recirculate. because as you take pressure off of this filter, all that stuff's going to try to drain backwards through the plumbing. Then you're going to end up back in that situation of having all that debris and nasty stuff in your pipes. So when you cut the pool on, it goes out into the pool. So if you put it in recirculate, you isolate the filter from the system so that nothing can come in or out of the filter while you're doing this job. So now that it's in recirculate, I like to go ahead and open my pressure valve on top of the filter. Some of them are on the built into the multi-port on sand filters and everything, but you wouldn't do this on a sand filter. So we let our pressure be bleeding off, and now I've got to take out the drain plug. So now we're behind the filter. On these S8D 110s, the drain plug is located down here at the bottom on the back. Different filter designs would be a little bit different, but they're usually on the bottom on the front of the back. Now, when dealing with one of these Pentair DE filters, the tool I recommend is a pair of oil filter pliers, also known as PVC pliers. You can take the whole filter apart with just one pair of these. So the reason I like these, little technician trick, this notch right here, when you have it on the outer setting, is exactly the width that you need to go inside the drain plug slot. So lefty loosey, righty tighty. Now you're gonna get wet and there's gonna be a bunch of nasty stuff that comes out of there. But if you were scared of water, you probably wouldn't be working on pools. So now we let that drain. If you want it to drain faster, you can fully unscrew your pressure gauge assembly at the top. And that's how you quickly drain the system. Now that our filter's in the process of draining, we can go ahead and start loosening all our clamps around the outer shell of the filter. There should be like 6 or 7 of them. I don't remember off the top of my head, but they just unscrew. And then when you get them out, they like to stick on one side. So all you got to do is just take the palm of your hand, give it a little palm strike. Whatcha? And then you've got an inner peg that just sits down in there, so you just lift up and out. And then you just repeat that all the way around. This is another problem you'll run into at times, where both sides are clamped on really tight. To avoid any kind of damage, you can take the tip of your pliers and just kind of slot it in there and just slowly kind of pop it out away from the filter. And now the other thing you have to look out for is this lock ring back here, this washer. If that's slid out of place, you'll never be able to pull that back off of there. So you always want to make sure that you get that kind of away. And now this is free to pull out. Okay, once all of your clamps are released, you're safe to remove the lid. Now, if you did not remove the pressure gauge assembly, something I see new people do all the time is go to grab that gauge assembly to lift the lid off. Don't do that. You'll break your gauge assembly. You're risking damaging the filter. So you have these nifty little tabs right here. These are meant for you to grab and lift the lid off. So always use your tabs to remove your lid. Once your lid has safely been removed, you now have access to your filter grids. Now these aren't very dirty because we went ahead and did a full backwash before we started this up, and I take pretty good care. This pulls on my regular filter service plan, so the filter should never really get too bad. But one thing you want to make sure of is this gasket. You always remove this gasket. You must clean not only this gasket, but also the track that it sits in. If there's any of this DE dust or dirt or anything else in that gasket track, the filter will leak when you put it back together. And you're gonna have to keep taking it apart and keep cleaning that gasket track until you get everything out of it. So, rule of thumb, always remove your gasket. I like to set mine around the top lid That way I always see it and I always know clean your gasket. The other thing, first and foremost, you want to check once you begin cleaning your filter is the breather hose. If this has any kind of tears or anything in the mesh, or it's compromised in any way, it will need to be replaced. Otherwise you're going to start blowing DE all back into your pool. So other than that, it's time to start cleaning the filter, and then we'll do an inspection to make sure there's no damage. Now, as far as cleaning the filter itself, what my tool of preference is the TurboJet wand from the As Seen on TV section. You can find them at Home Depot, Lowe's, things like that. But basically it's almost like a pressure washer for a hose pipe, but it's just a very long wand, and it's perfect because it lets you get directly in between all these grids, and it has a fan-shaped spray pattern, so it lets you clean these filters super easy. So yeah, we'll go ahead and basically just spray everything down. Now, it's pretty common to be working around bushes and shrubs with pool equipment and everything. It's really important that you get all these branches out of the way. You don't want to pinch a branch or a leaf or something in between your gasket and your lid. If you do, it's going to leak. So when putting the gasket back on, the easiest way to do it is start across from you, get it in place, and then just run your hands around the lip of the lid towards you, and it'll kind of fall in place. So otherwise you'll be fighting it, and it's kind of a pain. I also like to clean underneath the lid. As you can see, there's a little bit of DE that tends to build up in the track. So we'll go ahead and clean that out of there too, as well as the top where the pressure gauge goes in. All right, now we can put the lid back on and seal her up. All right, now we're all done. Everything's all cleaned up and it's back together. We're good to put it back in filter. Now, I like to go all the way around and then stop on filter. I don't like to go just half a turn and stop. I always do a full turn just to make sure that gasket's gonna seat all the way. So we're back in filter, everything's good. We're gonna empty the pump basket, but we'll worry about that after we clean the pool. Now I've got to recharge the DE, so it's going to be about 6 pounds of DE. So we'll get that and put it in the skimmer, and then the filter is done. And you see all those waves and all that motion in that water? It's the way it should be. It's working all the air out from where we just did the filter. Flow's looking really good. All right. We've now cleaned our pool, emptied our skimmer basket, and cleaned our skimmer sock. Make sure that's all the way down in there. Now, I'm gonna have to remove that again to recharge the filter with the DE. I saved that for last. You don't ever put DE through a skimmer sock. It'll clog it up. So, now that I'm done, the pool's clean. It's got great flow again. Everything's looking wonderful. So we'll even come over here. Yep, everything's clean. Skimmer Frog Pools. All right, so after checking the reading in the panel, the salt level is at 2,800 parts per million, which is the minimum and also the shutoff level for the chlorine production. So we want to make sure we get some salt in the pool to go ahead and get that back up to the ideal level, which is 3,600 parts per million. So we have 2 bags of salt. Each bag is about 300 parts per million. So if we're sitting around 2,800, that should put us right at about 36. So I also have the DE powder. I'm going to put in 5 to 6 pounds of that now directly in the skimmer. It's going to get sucked down to the filter where it's going to get trapped in the filter, and it's going to stay there to complete the filtration process. Now, DE is very lightweight and fluffy. Normally in one of these scoops, this would be a 3-pound scoop. But when it comes to DE, one of these scoops is only 1 pound. So to recharge an S8D110, what you need is 5 to 6 full scoops of DE powder. Now, one bag, I believe, is usually 25 pounds. So you get 5 filter cleanings out of every bag of DE. It's very important as you put your first scoop or 2 of DE in, you want to make sure you're back in filter always, or else if you're still in recirculate from cleaning the filter, then you're about to pour all this DE straight into the pool, and you would have to vacuum it all out. So always make sure you're back in filter. And then to make sure there's no issues with the filter, you want to go ahead, just 1 scoop. Don't breathe this in. It is silica based dust. Once it goes in your lungs, it's there forever, and it will cause silicosis of the lungs after so much. So we'll put 1 scoop in, and now we sit back and watch. You want to watch anywhere there's a return, otherwise known as a jet, and you want to make sure that you don't see any signs of powder blowing in. If you did, then there was a problem inside the filter and you missed it, or you have a bad multi-port. So it's going to go for the path of least resistance, so most likely it's going to blow in on that one or that one, depending on how they plumbed it. But I'm pretty sure there's no issues with this filter, so we're clear to go ahead and add the rest. Now I want to go ahead and get the salt dissolving, so we'll go ahead and do our salt pour as well, just to make it that much easier to brush. Shout out to Smith & Wesson. This is a Extreme Ops black carbide blade. Working on salt water, I've never had a knife last me longer than like 2 or 3 weeks until I got this knife. They gave me this kind of as a graduation gift for becoming like a lead technician and everything. So from my former employer. But I've had this knife now going on 2 years. Not a single bit of rust. So shout out to Smith & Wesson. This is the best knife I've ever owned for pool work. So even dealing with salt water and all these chemicals and everything, this thing's still just like the day I got it. So go ahead and pour our salt. Always in the deep end around your drains. You want to get it dissolved and get it in the system so that it actually disperses a lot faster. So I try not to just dump it all in at one time. That way more of it can dissolve on the way down. And then salt, when it gets wet, will stain concrete. So you never want to leave any kind of salt residue behind on the coping. Otherwise it will stain and leave spots. So always rinse your coping off. And whenever you're done with your bags, remove them from the deck. It's those little things like that that are important to being a technician. That's what separates good from bad technicians. So now we'll go ahead, rinse that down. We got 5 more scoops to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. You don't need to watch. Now, when you're putting DE in your skimmer, you wanna be careful. DE does not break down in water. So if this gets out into the pool, you're gonna have white powder all in the bottom of your pool where it's gonna settle, and you have to vacuum it out. It's never gonna go away. So when you're putting your DE in your skimmer, always go slow, 1 scoop at a time. Like I just kind of slowly pour it in and let it get sucked down. Because if you pour too much in at one time, like if you pour it all in a bucket, like I've seen some people do, and then just pour it all in there, it's gonna overflow out of the skimmer you're gonna have a giant white cloud going out into your pool. Then it's gonna settle and you're gonna have a mess to clean up. And typically you've already cleaned the pool by the time you're doing this, so you're gonna end up cleaning that pool twice. DE is messy, so you don't want to leave this on their deck. So you just take a little bit of water and just kind of splash it, and it goes away, just that easy. All right, now that that's done, quick hand rinse, replace the basket, make sure the sock floats down and fills out. And we're done. Now I just gotta add my phosphate Pool Perfect, a little bit of clarifier and phosphate remover, and then we'll brush our salt, get that dissolved into the drains real quick, and this pool will be done.
Skimmer Frog Pools, home of the gator, free guarantee.